Hey kids, Captain Handsome here. As promised, today we're going to talk about the NFC South. First thing I want to do, I want to clear something up. One of my boys reached out to me and told me that it was a little bit confusing what I said about the Eagles and me thinking they're going to repeat and nobody having repeated since 2004 when the Eagles did it. I meant the division. The NFC East has had a new winner every year starting in 2005. They've had I believe it was the Giants who won that year. Yeah, because they won the Super Bowl that year. I don't know. I believe it was the Giants in 2005. Anyways, the NFC East has had a different winner every year, and I believe that will end this year. 2004, I believe, was the fourth year in a row the Eagles won it. I know it was at least 3, but I believe it was 4 years in a row that they won it. So I was just saying that I thought they were going to repeat the division, and that hadn't been done in the NFC East since 2004. We all know last year was the Eagles' first Super Bowl win, because we all used to make fun of all of our Eagles buddies who were, because they hadn't won a Super Bowl. So without further ado, let's get into the NFC South. I'm actually wearing an NFC South appropriate jersey. It's my Jeremy Shockey Saints jersey. Huge Jeremy Shockey fan. Didn't do a lot with the Saints. Did even less with the Panthers. But did a lot with the Giants and won a Super Bowl and helped prevent the Patriots from being perfect. So we like him for that. I'm going to move right into the Atlanta Falcons, who I believe are the best team in the NFC South this year. I think it's close. I think the Falcons and the Saints are both really, really good. I know the Falcons lost Adrian Claiborne. They lost Poe this year, and a personal favorite of mine who really didn't do anything last year in Taylor Gabriel. I really like Taylor Gabriel. I guess the issue is there's just too many guys to give the ball to in Atlanta, and having 2 running backs who are both really efficient and really like guys you want to feed the ball to, and having Julio, it's just tough. So, I guess there wasn't a lot of room for Taylor Gabriel. I hope he does really well in Chicago. I think that's a team that could use him. But I don't think it's a massive hit for them. I really don't think any of them are that big for them. And especially when you think of they lost Taylor Gabriel, but they picked up Calvin Ridley. I really love the Fusco pickup. I think that their offensive line is going to be even more solid, which I think is awesome. I like Justin Bethel. I think that that's going to help their secondary a bunch, and I like their secondary. And I know that they just traded yesterday or today for Jordan Richards, who was a former second-round pick of the Patriots. Not that the Patriots have had a ton of luck in the early rounds of the draft recently. So, anyways, I think that the Falcons were a good team last year. I think the Falcons should have gone to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, that play at the end of the first half against the Eagles, you all know which one, where the ball went off his knee and the Eagles end up getting a reception. They end up kicking a field goal. If that doesn't happen, I think the Falcons for sure win that game. And I think the Falcons for sure go to the Super Bowl. And I mean, hopefully they don't lose the second year in a row to the Patriots. So I'm happy the Eagles got there because they won. But I really think that the Falcons could have been the representative from the NFC last year. In my opinion, they're the best team in the NFC. So I think they're very good. I think that they are probably, I think that they're probably the best team. I think it's close. I think they're a 10 or 11 win team, and the Saints are a 10 or 11 win team as well. And I think whichever one of them gets that extra win is going to be the one. But I'm picking the Falcons because I think it's super hard to repeat. Things I worry about Devontae Freeman and his health. Luckily for them, they've got Tevin Coleman. I always want to call him Tevin Campbell. And if you know who that is, you're old like me, and you're laughing right now because you're like, Tevin Campbell, what? But they've got Tevin Coleman, who I think is going to be just fine. I mean, they have Julio, and I'm so glad that they locked him up and they gave him that extra money because he deserves it. He's a gamer. He's very, very good. They've got Austin Hooper, who we think is everybody seems to think is going to, get it moving this year and going to be a breakout guy. I mean, they've got so many weapons on that offense. Let's just hope that in the second year, with an OC who had a not great year last year, that Sarkisian really gets his crap together this year and does it, because I think that there's a ton of talent on that offense, and the defense is pretty solid too. It's a fast defense. You've got Tack being a year older. yeah, I think the defense is good and solid, and I think the offense is good, and I love the Fusco ad. So I think I'm predicting them to be 11-5 team. I think they're going to win. From a fantasy perspective, obviously Julio is, you know, a late first round, early second round, depending on how deep your draft is, depending on what the scoring situation is. I don't love Devontae Freeman. I think he's too much of an injury risk, which is why I love that you can get Tevin Coleman in like the 4th, 5th round. I think he's got a ton of value because even if Freeman doesn't get hurt, they still use him a ton. I love Calvin Ridley as a late flyer. I think a lot of people do, so I don't think that's a big secret. That's anything I'm showing off about. But I just think he looks like he belongs in the NFL, so I like him a lot. And that's how I feel about the Falcons. We're going to move on to the Saints. I guess the biggest thing about the Saints is Nick Fairley, I think, has finally been released. He's been bought out, or I don't know what the whole story is. I know he had the heart issue last year. He didn't play all year, and he's finally gone. So he's like their big loss, unless you count Calamete, who was, you know, I thought he was really good for depth on that offensive line. But I mean, with Tron Armstead returning to health, they're going to be in good shape. That offensive line is super deep. That offensive line is excellent. Guys they picked up. I really love Demario David, the linebacker. I think that linebacking core is already pretty solid, and I think he's going to help it a lot. They did pick up Jermon Bushrod from my Dolphins, and he was a turnstile, man. I know he had some success there, and maybe he'll get buried as like the worst guy in a really talented offensive line, but like he was bad in Miami. He was really, really bad. Didn't look like he could move anybody. He really was a turnstile. So for me, I don't think that's a positive. I know they got Kurt Coleman, the safety, as well, and Patrick Robinson for their secondary as well. I think they're a good team. I think that young secondary is good. It's a little bit deeper now with those additions. I think they're still a very good team. I think they've got a great quarterback. I think they're transitioning to becoming a running team. I know you've lost your number one running back for the first 4 games for suspension, but you've still got Alvin Kamara. You got Michael Thomas. It's a deep team, man. It's a deep, deep team. I think they're going to be good. Who's it? Ben Watson is the tight end? Yeah, Ben Watson is the tight end this year. He'll be fine. He's older, but he does his job. He knows where to go. And Drew Brees is great. So I think they're going to be very good. I think they could win the division again. I just think it's very hard to repeat. And I think them and the Falcons are so close. I'm giving the edge to the Falcons because they didn't win it last year. From a fantasy perspective, obviously, I'm not giving away anything this year like I did last year when I told you all, if you listened, how good Alvin Kamara was going to be. How many of you picked him up? How many of you used him in your pool? How many of you won because of him? That is the best preseason sleeper that I have had since when I told everybody how good Wes Welker was going to be, and none of you listened. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is a stud. He's going really early in some drafts. If it's not PPR, I don't think I've got him before 10. I mean, there's a lot of ball to go around. I know for the first 4 weeks he's the number one, but there's a lot of balls to go around in that offense. I know it's going to be rushing, but I think Ingram's going to be the lead rusher. So I like Kamara at 10. I don't think you're going to get him there anywhere. I've seen him go 3. I've seen him go 4 in non-keeper leagues. Like, I think that's crazy. There's too many good options there for you to go that early. I wouldn't take him before 7. I think 7 is the beginning of it, and I think I would love to get him at 9 or 10. I think that would be ideal. Otherwise, you got Drew Brees. Drew Brees just seems to get no respect this year because they're going more of a running game. But it doesn't mean they don't still have an electric offense. It doesn't mean he doesn't still have an incredible arm and a great eye and a great vision for the game. Drew Brees is one of the best offensive quarterbacks of all time. So, yeah, I like Drew Brees. I think I think he's going off the board at like QB8, QB9. And if you can get him at that, like if you're in an 8-team league, you can get Drew Brees as your backup quarterback. That is insane. So I like Drew Brees. And I like waiting to get him because you can. I've seen him go after... he goes after Luck most of the time, which, I think Luck's another guy who people are waiting on. But I've seen him go after Stafford. Yeah, I love Stafford. Everybody knows I love Stafford, but Drew Brees is Drew Brees, right? So I think he's a good option. I said before I love Tevin Coleman from a fantasy perspective. Michael Thomas is okay. Again, it's an offense where a lot of guys are going to get the ball, so I don't know if I take an early pick, if I use an early pick on him. Like I said, if I could get Kamara late, I would love it. Otherwise, yeah, I'm probably not going with him. Moving on to the Carolina Panthers. One thing people know, I'm not a huge Carolina Panthers fan. I really think that they did Dave Gettleman bad. They didn't appreciate that he built that team, and now they're allowing the guy who almost destroyed it before Gettleman got there to probably destroy it again by overpaying guys like Greg Olsen, who Gettleman would not have overpaid. I think the biggest knock on them this year is losing Andrew Norwell. I mean, you know how I feel about the offensive line, and I've been screaming this for 10 years, and now people are finally starting to listen. Not now, I mean, it's been a few years that people realize how important the offensive line is, but it blew my mind that people in the NFL didn't. I mean, people who get paid to do this, people who get paid to build teams, didn't realize how important the offensive line is. It's insane. They lost, I guess the Bills got Star Latulitte, I can't pronounce his name, Star Latulitte, the defensive lineman. Jonathan Stewart went to the Giants. Ed Dixon left. Teddy Williams left. They lost a lot of guys. They picked up Dontari Poe. They stole him from the Falcons. Corner and a couple of secondary guys. There was Cockrell and Searcy, right? Denoise Searcy and Ross Cockrell to help out with their secondary. I just don't like them. I think they're too dependent on Cam, and I don't think Cam's a great quarterback. I think Cam's an incredibly impressive athlete. He runs really well. He's got a hose for an arm. The issue is his mechanics are terrible, so when he's not throwing well, he throws all over the place. I mean, you heard Kelvin Benjamin talk smack about him, and the truth is Kelvin Benjamin hasn't been anybody either, so who are you to talk smack about Cam? But, there's some truth to what he said. Cam's not a great traditional quarterback. He doesn't have great mechanics, so he's not that guy who 70% of his throws are going to be good. The truth is, 12% of his throws are good, but they're in a row, and he goes on these incredible runs because once he gets the flow going, he's very, very good. I know that there's this whole thing about him not drawing penalties, but it's probably because he's in the most situations. He also flops like crazy, and I hate that. I hate it. I hate guys who flop, and I hate quarterbacks who do that garbage. So there's no love for me for Cam. I respect what an incredible athlete he is. He's incredibly athletic. I just think he's a me kind of guy, and I don't like him. And I don't think a guy like that can lead you to a championship. I think he showed it. I think he cowered away in Super Bowl 50, and I just don't see them being a stud team. I think that they're in trouble. I think that they got rid of the best thing they had going for them was Dave Gettleman, and when they let him go, they let him go to the Giants. I think that cost them a lot, and I think that they're going to go down and down and down. Devin Funchess is your best receiver. I'm a Michigan guy. I remember Funchess. I remember Funchess dropping important balls, and now you want to say he can do it in the NFL? No, you can't. He absolutely can't. Greg Olsen's getting older. You can't tell me he's still a stud tight end. He's not. They got McCaffrey, and nobody doesn't love McCaffrey. He's going to be a great guy. He's going to put up some numbers. But the truth is, I just don't think they're that deep. I think they're one of those teams that has a couple of guys and a couple of name recognition guys who really aren't that great anymore. And so for me, I've got the Panthers. I think 8-8 is a best case scenario for them. I think they have a losing season. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You can tell me that. I'll own it. Last team in the division is the Bucks, and it's been an interesting offseason for them. Everything with Jameis, you got to think that they're going to try to separate themselves from him at some point. He's just one thing after another with that cat. And the worst of it was that silly little thing that he was doing with eating a W. It is. I've got a buddy who uses that as his sprite for fantasy, and every time I see it, I laugh. It was so good because it was so bad. It's boom goes the dynamite. It's terrible bad. And I know he was just trying to figure something out and inspire them, but it's bad. Not quite as bad as sexually assaulting your Uber driver, though. That is worse, and that gets you suspended. Apparently not for very many games because we don't care about that stuff in the NFL anymore. and you can negotiate yourself to 3 games, but they lost him for 3 games. Doug Martin's gone, but I didn't think that was going to be a big deal. But Ronald Jones was just atrocious at camp, so it looks like Peyton Barber's going to be the starter. Ronald Jones looked like he slipped behind Quiz, and he's going to be like, Quiz is a gadget back, and I don't think Jones is going to get the same touches as Quiz at this point because he's been so bad. From a receiving standpoint, they are deep. Like, they are incredibly deep. You've got Mike Evans, who is a stud. You've got Deshaun Jackson, who's your deep threat. You've got Humphreys, who's your slot guy. Then you've got Chris Godwin, who everybody's saying is probably going to take that starting spot from Deshaun Jackson, or he's going to get, in the end, more snaps. And Deshaun might be the starter, but Godwin's going to earn himself more snaps. I told you about him last year. I loved him last year, and I really like him this year. I really do think that he's got a shot to be the number 2 guy on that team. So, they're very deep. They've got Cameron Brate, who I love. Oh, and then they have that other tight end, O.J. Howard, as well. Man, from a receiving point of view, they're very, very deep. My issue is I don't like their quarterback. I don't like his head. I think they would be a better team with Ryan Fitzpatrick all year than with Jameis. Jameis is way more talented, but I don't think he's got it up here, and I think that that's what matters. It's why RG3 fell apart, and I think it's why Jameis is never going to be a superstar, and I think it's why they're just not going to be good. I know they built up their linebacking core, and so they're supposed to be a stronger team, and a lot of people are picking them to be great. I see them as a 6-7 win team. I just don't think they're going to be anything special. I like JPP, but he's old. I like Vinny Curry, who they picked up. I like Bo Allen too. I think they have a talented front 7 now. And they still got Brent Grimes, who I absolutely love. I met Brent and his wife a couple of times when he was playing for the Dolphins. And I just want to say, for anybody who has anything nasty to say about Miko Grimes, she's an incredibly kind woman. She doesn't like people smack talking her husband, and I think that's just fine. The honest truth is, he's been one of the best cornerbacks in the league for the last 6, 7, 8 years. So people want to say he's getting old, want to say whatever, but until the numbers slow down, until you watch on film and you don't see him, killing it every game, you can't say anything bad about him. So don't pick fights with Miko. She's an incredibly kind woman. She has a lot of time for the fans. Even a game I wouldn't expect her to remember me, but we were on the field level for a Dolphins game, and I had a Grimes jersey on, and she called him over to sign for me. She's a very kind person. Brent's a really great guy, too. I met him a few times. Incredibly nice. And he's a great cornerback. That's how I see things rolling out in the South. As far as fantasy for the Bucks, obviously Mike Evans. I love Mike Evans. He was the YR1 2 seasons ago, and I think that he can, I think he can be the top, 3-4 wide receivers. The top part is they've got so much depth there, but he's an incredibly talented guy. I just worry about Jameis. I wouldn't touch Jameis with a 20-foot pole. I wouldn't touch any of the running backs. O.J. Howard might be a sleeper, but Cam Brate's so talented that how do you take touches away from him? It's tough. Godwin I love as a sleeper because he's going 80 picks after Deshaun Jackson, who I think he's going to get way more. I think by the end of the season, he's going to have more touches. So that's where I am with them. That's where I am with the NFC South. Tomorrow, time permitting, I'm going to try to do the AFC South. It is my wife's birthday party, so if I don't get it to you till Sunday, you'll understand. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for responding. Thanks for watching. Thanks for responding to me. Thanks for giving me advice. Please continue to do that. Please click subscribe if you like what I'm doing. I appreciate it. It makes me look good. And I'm hoping to get a Ruffles sponsorship because this all wouldn't exist without Ruffles. So Ruffles, if you're listening, sponsorship's right here. Thanks, guys.